Hi, I'm Doug here at Global West, and today I thought I'd take a minute and talk to you about what I have on the table here, and this is for 1993 through 2002 Camaros and Firebirds. It is a bushing replacement kit that we use a bearing system for the front lowers. Now those particular cars have a problem with the back bushing and the lower control arm. They blow them out quickly and you lose your alignment totally. You get a lot of wandering from that. You can actually develop an oscillation or vibration through it. Alignment doesn't hold. There's a number of situations that can happen off that back bushing. So what we do is we go to a bearing system and replace all the rubber in that lower control arm. The benefit of that is you control your alignment now, and this is excellent for you whether you're drag racing, road racing, autocross, and even on the street. So this particular kit, SP7, this shows you everything that we have in that kit, but there is some difference here. I've got this deliberately apart right here to show you what comes in the kit, but these bearings actually, when we ship them, are going to be already installed in these housings with these retaining sleeves. So you're really not going to see the bearings that are in there, but they're there, okay? So let's take it back. We'll go ahead and install these real quick for you, and then you can see what the kit would be if you got it out of the box. All right, so this is what you're going to see when you actually get the kit. This particular housing has the bearings already installed. So now an SP7 out of the box is going to look like that. What we're going to do today is we're actually going to show you how to assemble this or install it in the lower control arms for a 93 to 02. The control arms that we're doing in the back, the customer wants them powder coated. So that changes the equation. Normally, like I said before, those are assembled. Bearings are already installed. But if you're going to powder coat, we need to know that, because if you powder coat, we have to send these housings to you unassembled, because there's a Teflon inner liner that's inside this bearing. And with powder coat, you'll destroy that, and it'll be a bad bearing. So you can't have that installed if you're powder coating the control arms. So in the video, we're going to show you about us assembling the control arms and how we do it. They're not welded. You're going to see an open housing, and we'll assemble this after the powder coat, okay? Just so you know, if you order an SP7, these are coming together. You need to tell us if you're powder coating so we can send you the kit unassembled. The bearings will be external of the housing. There's one more thing I want to talk to you about, and that's when you're powder coating the lower control arms. We talked about getting the housings without the bearings pressed and what have you. Once these get welded in and you're sending it over to powder coat, make sure that they tape these off so that you do not get powder coat on the inside of these housings. Once you get powder coat inside there, the bearings are not going to go, and you're going to have to buff the powder coat out without damaging the housing, so there's still some press on the bearing. So tape them off and you'll be all right. Okay, as you can see, the control arms are sandblasted, ready to go. We got the bearing housings there. And let's go in the back and we'll show you how to assemble this. Now we're going to do the big bearing housing first. It presses in from the bottom side. It'll actually rest on that lip. Once you get that in, go ahead and put the small bearing side, which is the front of the arm. We put a spacer plate in there to allow us to keep everything square as we're doing the press work. And that only goes in one way. You can't make a mistake here. And you just press the arm down until it contacts the flange of the bushing housing, or bearing housing rather. Go ahead and weld. You're going to run a 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch weld, 180 out from each other, so it stays in the control arm. And then when you go to the larger housing, you're going to do the same thing. And inch, inch and a quarter, anywhere in there is fine, but just weld 180 out. And you can see here we're doing it on the top side of the control arm rather than the bottom. As you can see, the control arms are back from powder coat, and we're going to go ahead and assemble the bearings into the control arm. Now, one of the things you got to look for is to see if there's any powder coat in the housing. because if there's any powder coat in the housing, you'll have trouble putting a bearing in. So we want to make sure we clean any of that out of there so that the bearing will slide directly in the housing. You can't have powder coat or anything in there. As you can see now, we've got it cleaned out and it drops right in. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to press that bearing down, and it'll index in the housing. There's a lip inside there where the bearing will actually index on. So just go ahead and press it in, and when it bottoms out, then you'll see that there's a retaining clip that goes inside there. It's called a spiral lock, and you're going to use that spiral lock to hold that bearing in place. Notice how the spiral lock goes in? Screwdriver gets done, you just separate it, slide one end of it in, and just push it right into the groove. See how that goes? Very simple. But that will hold that bearing in place. Make sure you pop it all the way over into the groove too. Just go ahead and put a little pressure there. Make sure it's locked in place. Okay, then we're going to go to the front. So you're going to go ahead and press the bearing in. There's a lip inside the housing, so the bearing's just going to press down and index on that lip. Now, we don't use a spiral lock retaining ring in this housing because there's not enough wall thickness. So instead, that's why we have that sleeve that you're going to press in, and it's going to contact the bearing, and then you're going to weld that sleeve into the housing. It's a quick one. We like to use silicon bronze when we do that, but it'll be 180 out from each other and about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch weld on each side, 180 out, and you're done. You're not going to get the part hot enough to damage the bearing. That's why we don't want it welded all the way around. 180 out, 3/4 of an inch or so, that's all you're going to need, and you're done. Okay, so now you got an idea on how we install those bearings in the control arm. There's one thing we didn't talk about, and that was these spacers right here. These spacers go in the bearings. They take up the gap that's going to be required in order to install it in the frame. So the long ones actually go right inside the bearing. They'll pop in just like that. And these shorter ones will go into the larger diameter bearing, which is the back bearing in the control arm. And they'll just drop in like this. And this all has the correct spacing, so it'll plug directly onto your frame. That's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in other videos that we may do or other products that we may have, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on Instagram. Thanks again.